Bill, are we supposed to be opening anything on our screen?
Yeah, we can all open Photoshop to start with. And there are files on image files that I emailed you, and also put as a zip file in week 6 course content that we'll be experimenting with. Okay, well, let's start. We're going to be talking about 2 different ways to bring images into Revit by way of Photoshop, using Photoshop to get them ready for what Revit needs to have them to do. And the first one will be looking at images that repeat. You know, you get a section of brick and it repeats infinitely, sort of along whatever wall it's making when we're making materials. So that's for repeating images, and then also for decals, which are single images that you can stick on a wall, stick on a TV screen, stick into a picture frame, and have them function as the picture when you're doing the rendering or whatever. So I'd like to start with the repeating images. What I want to do is open the image wherever you have saved these. I want to open this one called Wall Pattern 57 Skewed. We looked at a version of this last week. It was already rectangular. All the lines were vertical or horizontal. And here, this is like a wall that was taken at a slight angle. So it's, we got a little bit of vanishing point stuff going on here, which when we start to repeat this image is really going to show up. And a way you can preview that, this is sort of a new thing in Photoshop the last couple of years that's really wonderful, is to see what this is going to look like when it's repeated infinitely, horizontally and vertically, is to go into View and then check this Pattern Preview. And we can say, okay, that's fine. So we can then see that in with the blue outline, the original image, and then what it would look like if that same image is repeated sort of infinitely. And what's crazy is you can zoom out here, and it just goes on forever. which I don't really need to use. What I want to do is to rectify this image so that this line continues straight across here. Can you see the yellow
Yeah.
cursor okay? Does that work out all right?
Yeah.
And across here, and then the vertical ones are continuous. So we can just uncheck that, uncheck pattern preview to get back to here. So the question here is how do we stretch this guy, and how do we know that we've stretched it correctly? And what I want to do is to isolate this rectangle right here. Get rid of what's around the edges, and then to stretch that to be a rectangle instead of sloping in. And that's hard to eyeball. So if you don't have them already, do view rulers, check view rulers so that those are turned on. And when that's in place, then we can just come over to the side and click and drag a vertical ruler in. I'll do that to the other side as well. So I'm going to go from this point and then this vertical line. And then the same way horizontally, we can grab one from the top and bring it down to there. So we've got 2 vertical ones and a horizontal, and I'll bring down another horizontal one to start defining this line over here. At this point, I want to include basically I want to get this point right here, and I guess this point over here. To move these around, we can pick the select point, and then we can actually move these guys. And I was thinking of cropping to there, but then that would crop off this little bit over here. So I guess I need to include a little bit more than I would normally need. So I guess that looks pretty good. We'll see how this works out. So what I'm going to do is crop to that area and then stretch it so it becomes a rectangle, skewed vertical lines, and set them vertical. So I'll go to the crop tool, and that highlights the sides of these, which will then snap to the rulers that we stuck on there. And then once you've got those snapped there, you can hit enter. and then it will crop that off the image. It's just gone. And now remember when we were putting those windows into the front of the Sacred Heart School, we used the Skew tool to fix the windows in their new positions. And I'm going to use the same thing here to line these vertical image lines up with the rulers. So that's an edit. Oh, you can't warp the background. So what we need to do first is to go over here to the, everybody got this showing up over here on the side? Okay, we want to take the background and unlock it. Just click on the lock button. And then it becomes a layer that we can manipulate. But a background, as far as Photoshop is concerned, is sort of by definition something you can crop, but you can't wiggle or skew. So having changed that to a layer, and now that it's a layer, if we make other layers, it can be moved up and down relative to them. The background has to stay at the very bottom of the stack. So what we want to do is, with this now being an editable layer, we want to go into Edit, Transform. I'll use Skew again. There are these other ones that can be used, but this is sort of the cleanest for me, which gives us our four our corners. I'm just going to grab this one and pull it out until that line goes straight up like that. So now this guy is vertical. And this one seems to have been vertical to start with, but we need to move this up to there, and this one down to there. And now we have a sort of a normalized rectangle that now will repeat smoothly. Horizontal, verticals, vertical. So I can just click, I can just say, okay, we're done with that. And because we have cropped the canvas to that size, it gets rid of that excess stuff that was sticking out the sides. That work for everybody?
How do you do okay? How do you do okay?
I think I just clicked here, which sort of says, let's start doing something else. So now, if we go back to View, Pattern Preview, we can see we have a smoothly repeating pattern for that wall pattern. And I mentioned photographing bricks. A lot of times you can't end up photographing a wall straight on, or even if you try, you're off a little bit. And this turns out to be a good way, a good basic procedure for getting something that is rectangular but doesn't look like it in a photograph to become rectangular as an image. And we can turn View, Pattern Preview off, and then we can use this in Revit as a basis for material, the way that we did last week with that a couple of those different patterns we looked at, like that loopy thing and a couple others. So at this point, I'm going to go File, Save As. Let's do Save a Copy. And I call it Wall Pattern 57 Skewed. I'm going to call it Wall Pattern 57. I don't know. I'll just call it De-skewed, just so we can keep track of what has happened to each of the images.
I have a quick question. Yours is a JPG. Mine is a PSD. Is that okay?
Okay. Let me do this. Yeah. When you go to File, Save, it wants to save them in a format like potentially with layers and everything in it. So all of these files here, all of these types that are available here can save things in layers. You know, we could have a bunch of layers with different things on them stacked up here, and we don't want that. That's not the kind of image that Revit's going to be able to use. It wants just a flat file, everything in one layer. And to enforce that, you use File, Save a Copy.
Oh, okay.
And then that will give you a whole list of them, and we just pick JPEG.
Oh, okay, got it. Thank you.
And we'll call it De-skewed. De-skewed. Save. Okay. Now, notice something. When you do a save as, it doesn't change, as far as Photoshop is concerned, we're still working with the original version of it. We saved off to the hard drive the de-skewed version, but this one is still here. I want to keep that skewed version of it. So when I exit, I'm going to say, do I want to save the changes made to 57 skewed? No, I don't. I want it to stay skewed. I want to have the two different versions on disk just so I can tell the difference between them. No. That was useful because the image was already organized in a rectangular fashion. All we had to do was sort of isolate that. Sometimes it's not quite so straightforward, and we have to do some retouching at the edges. So let's go to File, Open, the cobblestone one. Looks more promising. Looks like there's going to be less to do. But let's look at it under, what is it, Pattern Preview. View Pattern Preview. And looks good, except we see that this top row, basically this top row and this bottom row together add up to be something bigger than the normal brick height. So I want to fix that so we end up with even rows of even height all the way up. And I think the easiest way to do that will just be to bring the edge of the drawing down to here and up to here, that line, so that we don't have to worry about getting pieces to match. We're just going to deal with rows separated by a joint. So we'll turn this back off. And again, just let's just crop it. Let's use the rulers just to be able to visualize what we're doing. Drag a ruler down. I'm going to stick it just right in the middle of the gap. And stop me if I'm going too fast. I've done this before, so I'm sort of practiced at it. This, incidentally, is not an actual photograph. This is generated from the website of a company that sells cobblestones, so you can preview their stuff. But I'm using that to show how we're going to be sort of retouching things on the edges of these. So I think we're pretty good. It looks like, if we crop here and here, then it looks to me like once this piece gets carried around to over here, it'll be the same. Sorry, it'll be the same width as the rest of them. So I'm just going to leave the edges just the way they are and just crop top and bottom. So I've got my rulers in, go to the crop tool, and just drag the top and the bottom in until they click. And then hit enter.
But did you just crop from the top or the sides too?
Just the top and the bottom.
Okay.
I think the sides are going to be okay. I want to turn these off. These are the rulers. These are called the guides that you bring down from the rulers. And if we go again to View and go to Clear Guides, they're gone. They've been forgotten about. And now if we go back to View, Pattern Preview, we can see that looks pretty good. One problem here, though, is that as you can see, I've got, what we really want is the joints to be staggered. But the way we've trimmed this, the way we've cropped this, is that here and here they aren't staggered. So what I need to do is to bring one of these down so we don't end up with a full brick and a full brick at the top and the bottom to repeat there. So we'll go back to take that off. I'm just going to crop down from the top so that we have the appropriate pattern for the brick courses. So there's that. And I'll use crop again and come down to there and hit enter.
When I crop the image, it pulls everything in at the same time. It won't let me just adjust one side. Is there a way to change?
Okay, let me go back. Okay, when I go edit, are we pretty much the same here so far?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go to edit. Sorry, just plain crop. And showing like this.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm just bringing this one down.
Yeah.
So when I hit enter, it'll crop off this stuff, but there's nothing to do over here. So these guys will just disappear.
When I pull down from the top, it pulls in at all corners. So it's at a square at the original image. So when I crop, it just pulls in and out, no matter what corner I select from. And I mean, at the bottom, it has different ratios. Like you can do a 1x1, a 4x4, but either way, when I change those settings, it's still.
Let's have you share your screen then. Can you do that? At the bottom, you got to share.
Well, you're on my iPad and I'm on my computer. You want me to just flip my camera and show it?
Oh.
Or should I join the?
Well, share. Oh, I see. That's the problem. Yeah, just aim your camera at the screen and give us with your third hand. You can do something else.
Okay. So this is what I'm looking at now.
Okay.
So if I pull down from here, see how it adjusts the entire frame.
Oh, let me see if I can duplicate that. Are you on this tool right here, the crop tool?
A crop.
You sure are. Okay, let me crop. How about up here? Up here where it says yeah, that original ratio, change that just to ratio. And now try it.
Okay, we have
No?
Well, we have a better shape, but it's still adjusting the entire.
Okay, let's just keep working on that top row. I have nothing showing up in the next. It says ratio, and then there are two blanks.
Mm-hmm.
That mine are blank. How about clear? Hit clear there. Okay, now try it.
Okay, there we go.
There we go. Okay, that was trying to maintain, some golden whatever ratio that was. Okay, good.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've never encountered that before. So let's hit enter. And there's that. And then these guys also, if you're tired of them, you can just drag them back up and make them go away. Again, using the select thing to grab it and then taste it. So let's go to view, pattern preview again. And that looks great as far as I'm concerned in terms of we've got the stacking, they're off center here, maintain that same offset. But you notice we have places where the color changes happens because this brick and this brick are not the same color. So the cool thing is right here, we can use the clone stamp tool to smooth out those color differences. And when you fix it in one place, it'll fix it in every place that situation occurs. And this is just magic to me. But let me just zoom in right here. And I'll use the clone stamp tool, which is S for stamp. And then Alt click. Let me make this a little smaller. That's right click. Alt click selects an area to copy, and then you can paint with it until you get a good enough edge. And I need to do a little fixing up there. But for that tool, if you set the hardness pretty low, I right click to get that, then the edges will sort of blend in with what was underneath them. So let's just say that I'm going to make my size be 30 and my hardness be 30, just to have some numbers that we're all working with. Okay, so then I look up above that and I see there's a slight fiddle there.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You did the S for clone, right? The clone stamp.
Yeah.
And then you did Alt click. Is that what
I hold down Alt. Let's say I want to copy from here over to here. I'll hold down. Actually, I'm going to do it like on an edge so I can line up the joint. I'm going to click. I hold down Alt, and while I'm holding it down, I click that point. And then this source comes over to here.
Oh.
And I can sort of start smoothing that stuff in. So at that point, it looks like we have, I'm hit escape here to get, or just, I'll pick another. That stool stays active until I pick another one. So now I'm back to here. At that point, this is looking pretty good. This looks like I mean, you can start to see this red one repeating, but that's just what it does because that's how big that image is. But I think you could put this up on a wall. I mean, you get far enough away, you can start to see the pattern. But if you're closer up, you really don't. But that's what we can do with that piece of stuff. So we'll go back to view, turn that off. So I'd like to save this as a useful one. So let's do file, save a copy. I'm just going to call it cobblestone seamless. I'm going to start using that as my phrase for these ones that can I can use. And I'm going to rename this one to be wall pattern 57 schemeless as well. So cobblestone seamless, save. Okay, we can close this one because I'm not going to change. I want to keep that original one for whatever reason, but I'm not going to save the changes to the original one. So I'll say no, because I have the seamless version saved. Okay, well, so far we've been dealing with images that had clear rectangular boundaries. We were just trying to match those. I'd like to open, let's say, the green granite image. This is probably only like about a square foot or something of the stone. I don't know how big that is, but if I want to use that for a big countertop and stuff, let's see what that would end up looking like if we just used it the way it is as a material in Revit. Again, view, pattern preview. So we see pretty obvious repetition, and we can really tell where these joints are, which is where the image drops off. You know, just gets cut. You know, if I want to have like maybe a piece that's this big, you know, for my countertop, that, you know, the pattern would be very evident. So look at a couple of different ways to use this same image, but to copy it and rotate it and mirror it and stuff, so we end up with more variety in our base image. So let me just show you what that is involved there. View, pattern preview. First of all, I want to copy this, and we'll end up using it in a couple of different ways. So I'm just going to do Control A. Okay, Control A, it's selected at all, and then edit copy. So that's now remembered. We can place extra copies of it, but I can't place extra copies on this canvas because this canvas is only this big. So I'm going to increase the canvas size to be twice as long and twice as high. So we can put copies of here and then rotate them, mirror them, flip them, whatever it has to be to get some variety in this. And then we'll see what we're going to do with it. So I'm going to make this background bigger. And that's over here in image canvas size. And what this is showing me is that right now it's a certain number of inches, but let's just change it to, well, let's just go to percent. It doesn't actually matter how big it is. And I would like to make this twice as long and twice as high. So I make these each be 200. But before I click OK, I want to put the original image down in the bottom left-hand corner. So I sort of leave this area over here be white that we can paste the new image into. So 200 by 200 and leave the original image down here in the bottom left corner. Now I'd like to paste copies of this into here and see what sort of manipulations we can do to make them start looking interesting and not repeating. So edit paste or Control V, either one. You put that up there. And I think this one, I'll just rotate 180 degrees. Edit, image, rotation, 180. Oh, that was the whole. That was the whole thing, huh? Sorry, that was for the whole image. I need to go and edit transform, rotate 180, and that will apply just to the thing that's currently selected. And I'm going to place it again, edit paste, stick it over here. And maybe I'll just mirror it this time. I rotated it here. I might just mirror it there and see what we get. Edit, transform. This will be flip horizontal, where it just flips right to left. I'm just goofing here, ladies. We'll see where we get, but we'll put the last one down here. Control V. And maybe I'll just I'll flip that one vertically, flip that one vertically. Edit, transform, flip vertical. So when I go over to do the previewing the pattern and seeing how this all works together, I would like to think of this as all one image that I'm messing around with rather than four separate layers. So I'm going to merge these guys into a single layer, and I can just do that by click, and then I think shift click, shift click, shift click, and then right click, merge layers.
How do you do that?
Yeah.
Can you do that again?
Two ways to do it. One is to click on one and then come down and shift click to the last one. Or I can just shift click. Oh, that was control click one at a time. So click, shift click, or click. A couple of different ways to do that, I guess. Anyway, I want to select all of them. Right click, merge, merge layers. So now it's just one. Easier to think about.
Okay.
Okay. So now if we go over to view pattern preview, it's pretty obvious, sort of joints here, but we can go in any place where we sort of don't like what's happening and just clone things from one place to another to sort of blur these edges. So we will all probably do this differently. I'm just going to start over here, do S, and to start the clone tool, and then Alt click to select that as my base point. And then I'm just going to sort of start. Oh, I need to make this be stronger. Oh, I need like a 200 pixel radius for this. So I'm just trying to fudge the edges here is all I'm really doing. Anywhere where it looks like I've got a joint, I'm just grabbing some stuff and I guess really what I'm trying to do is not make the white parts so so strong. You know, they look sort of like bones, and I'm just trying to make them a little less obvious. And we will all be doing this differently. I don't want to turn it to mush. I just don't want it to be really obvious where the joints are. I mean, it's an inherent limitation of working with a single image that it does repeat. And unless it's just like totally gray or really completely random, you're going to start picking up the patterns. Anyway, so something along those lines. And then I'm going to just go back and turn this off and just save this hodgepodge of stuff as green marble seamless. File, save a copy. Green granite seamless. I want to capitalize those actually. Save. Okay. And remember, in Revit, when we create a material using an image, we tell it how big the image is. So I might want to say that this is like 2 feet by 18 inches or something along those lines, just to keep the proportions approximately the same. I don't want to zoom in too hard, you know, or start seeing where our little joints were. Yeah, like there's one right there. But good enough for government work at this point. And these are all pretty much just working towards getting a rectangular image that will repeat, either using seams that are already there, like with the bricks, joints or seams, or making what looks like a continuous material where you can't see those. With decals, that's going to be quite a different process. And let's get into Revit, and let's get out of here. Are we done here for now? Not entirely, but let's get into Revit. Let's just go to new. And again, I'm going to use my residential default one just to use. And I use this just because these multidiscipline ones just come with more layers and more sheets and all that kind of stuff that frankly just gets in the way. I'd rather create them individually for each project. Residential default, open, okay. Again, I'm just going to make my basic floor and wall, wood floor and chipboard wall, just so we know where we're putting stuff. Floor, architecture floor, pick this wood finish one and do a little room. It's got the wood on it, and we'll put a wall here across the back. I'll use the chipboard one. Okay. So let me get into a realistic view, visual style. And to show you the basic process of using decals, we'll do that first, and then fix some images so they can be used better as decals. If we go to Insert, we have this thing called Link, if that's showing, and then Decal. And if I go to Place Decal, there are none to make. We need to create a decal. So they'll be down here under Create One. And we'll call this Test or something, Demo. And it's going to ask us for an image, and I'll just pick a rectangular. They're all rectangular that we can just then place on surfaces in the model. So it's invalid image file. That's because there isn't one yet. I might just go back to the images we just downloaded. wherever you stuck those, and maybe just pick the target logo.
Could you show how you link a decal again? Or how you got to that setting screen?
Yeah, it's an
Okay.
insert, decal, place, and we can create a new decal in either one of these.
Okay.
But I'm using decal types, so we can come down and say make a new decal.
Okay, gotcha. That's what I wasn't hitting.
And I'll say target. Okay, and then I go pick my target image file.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm just going to leave that okay. That's all we do. So it's the idea of it's been created. It's like making a family, but it hasn't been placed in the drawing yet. So then we go to insert decal, place a decal, put the image on the object, and we can just place it on any surface in the model. These will keep their outlines, even if we turn outlines off for the rest of the drawing. We go to turn show edges off. And it turns them off for the 3D objects, or they stay here on the decals until we go to render, view, render. Go to medium just for fun. At which point they disappear. So they look like they were, glued to the wall or whatever. Okay, let's look at what we can apply them to. I'm going to create a cylinder here. If you remember, what the actual working plane, the active work plane for this view is down here on one of the bottom, on the footings. It's crazy. So I'm going to tell it, I'll make this my active plane, so I can just draw things in 3D on that floor and not actually be on that floor. So I'm going to go to architecture, set the work plane to the top of the floor. So now when I draw things, they'll be there. When I create an extrusion, for instance, which I'll do. I'm just going to make a cylinder, foot or two in diameter and a couple of feet high. So that's component, model in place, something entourage. We'll call this cylinder. Close enough. And that will be an extrusion, round extrusion that I'll make 5 feet high. So round extrusion, 5 feet high, okay. And let's give this a material. Right now it's just the default entourage material. And to change its material, I need to go back and edit in place, if you remember, because that's where I created it in model in place. And I'm just going to set its material to one of these woods. I'll pick cherry. And okay. Finish model. Okay, so there's that. So if I stick one of those on here, I can either pick one of these and type CS for create similar. In fact, I'll do that right now, or I could have used insert place them. I'll pick it, CS, and you can see how that sticks on there, and it'll wrap around, and basically these will adhere to any surface that you could actually put a piece of paper on, either flat or what's called 1 degree of curvature, which is like a cylinder. They won't stick to, you're over here, they won't stick to a sphere. It won't even, it'll just be a little X or something or other, like you can't even do it because it would have to distort and warp.
How did you paste it onto the cylinder?
Say it again?
I just know it's just letting me move it. How do you put it on the cylinder?
Oh, like one of these on the floor? I'll do it this way. Insert, decal, place a decal, And I'm just taking it there and clicking. Is that working?
Yes.
This is a little funny. I think what happens is the cylinder is sort of actually thought of as two halves, but let's just see if the rendered version works better. This is new to me, actually. Huh, look at that. It's like this is actually two half surfaces, and right now we're just on the edge. Oh, this is interesting. Let me show you what's happening, and we can maybe fix this. If we cancel that, and then type pick this and type CS, and put one on the top, you'll see that we only see it to the extent that it overlaps the surface it was applied to. So here, Revit has made essentially two semicircular surfaces, and this one, so this one falls off the top surface, so we don't see it. This one falls off this front surface, so we don't see it. So I think what I can do, I think I can put one on the back surface and slide it over so we have two halves. I've never done this before. Let's see. CS. Create similar. Okay, well, there it is. Create similar. And then how about if I just move that one around till it. Yeah, so that's sort of using two halves to make a whole, which I've never had to do that before in I don't know how many years of using Revit and decals, but there you are. That's a way to do that. May you never have to, but now you know how if you ever do. And this is fine, except that I'd really rather not have this white area around. I would just like to have the red circle, a white circle, and a red dot in the middle. Not with the stuff that's around the edge. Revit treats all images, well, all images are rectangular. So Revit has to do something with those outside white pixels unless we tell it not to. You know, remember in Photoshop when you say remove background for something or other, it would not erase the background. It would create a new layer with a mask that suppressed the current layer where it was black and let the image come through. And we're going to do something very similar here using Photoshop to make a pair of images for Revit, one of which is the actual image of the Coke bottle logo. And the other is a mask that goes around the outside that gets rid of the peripheral stuff that we don't want to see. So we end up with just a circle that gets up applied to the wall. Show you how that works. I'll leave this running. Back into Photoshop. Let's open Coca-Cola bottle logo. Yeah, that one. Open. What we want to do is get rid of this peripheral white stuff. We can't just erase it because those pixels are still there. They're just transparent. And Revit's going to treat transparent pixels as if they're white. We have to make a mask. I mean, just like a mask goes on your face that hides things, a mask that hides this white stuff. Here's how we do that. We're going to start with this. We're going to put a black mask around the edge, then get rid of this. So we're going to end up with this. And this will be a separate JPEG file cutout called Coca-Cola Cutout on top of this one that will let the image show through. This is a funny way to do a show. Let the image show through, but block the white corners. And it's a simple process. It's not a big deal at all. I want to have another layer to put that black stuff on. So I'll just create a new layer down here in Photoshop. That's up here. I'm just going to call that mask. I can just double click it, call it mask. Just so we can keep track of what's going on. And then I want to be able to paint all this white stuff black. So it will stop this white image from coming through once it's a decal in Revit. First, I'm going to make the background the active layer. and then select all this white stuff that way, or select that white area that way. And that's going to be with the magic wand tool, fourth one down, magic wand tool. And just clicking inside here will pick all those white pixels. So I've used this layer to select those all these pixels that are inside the it's called a marquee, this, or walking ants, as some people think of it. But I actually want to do the painting. I'm going to paint into these areas, oops, onto the masking layer. So now I'm going to make it active. And actually, when I selected it, it didn't pick pixels per se. It didn't pick like this white pixel. It picked a region. So now I'm just saying, think of the region as being up on the masking layer. And I'm just going to paint black into here that will mask the white when we get it into Revit. I didn't invent this. This is the way it works. So that's going to be with the, well, first of all, we need to set our color we paint with down here to black if it's not already. You know, it might have been blue or something. I'm just going to go down to black and say, okay. So that's my current color, my current foreground color. And then I'll use the paint bucket tool. And there are a couple of tools under there. There's a gradient tool we don't want. We want the paint bucket tool. And with that, we can just click anywhere inside here, and that'll put it onto this layer right here. We can see we picked that up. Now we can let go of that selection set. And pretty much all these programs, if things are selected or an area is selected, Control D will deselect. So now we have an image or a mask. And since we already have a Coke image, I'm going to just save this right here as another JPEG. And then tell Revit to sandwich these two together so the image shows through here, but the white edges don't show through here. When I save as a JPEG, it won't save layers. It will only save what's visible on the screen. So I'm going to go File, Save a Copy. Oh, and I've saved it already. I'm going to cut a Coke bottle cutout JPEG because I was practicing here already. Cutout, and you'll see I've been capitalizing sort of what happens if I like modified these. So I've got like seamless and cutout and de-skew just to make it real clear to myself what's happened to those images. So Coca-Cola bottle cutout.jpg, okay. Mine will say replace. Yours will just accept it because you don't have one already. And something I mentioned in the notes is you want to get all your cropping of the original image done ahead of time because it's important that these two images be exactly the same size so they can line up exactly on top of each other, pixel for pixel. So we have the original image, we have a cutout image we can get out of Photoshop. Don't need to save this. Actually, don't want to save this because this would save it with, you know, a couple layers of stuff. And I'll get back into Revit. So here's the target with its edges. Let's make a new decal for Coke that does not have edges. And that's an insert decal, decal types. So there's our target. We'll come down and make a new one. Okay. So the source of it will be the regular Coke bottle logo. That's our basic image. That's what's going to shine through. Okay. And our cutout, that's what we just made. That's going to be the, we have to pick that one now from a similar interface. That is the Coke bottle logo cutout. And I use that word. I used to say it's a cutout, so I make that association one-to-one. Open. So we've got that, basically this minus this. Okay. So now when we go and place that decal, place decal, Coke bottle. we don't have the white stuff, which you can't tell quite as well until we go actually to render it. RR for render. And you can stick that on a glass window, stick on any simple surface, curved or flat. And pretty much what I did in the notes is exactly what we just did here on the screen. So that's a pretty good procedure for you. So over on page 4, let's make a family picture frame that we can apply that to the wall and then stick an image into it. Oh, and one thing, just to make it clear, when I move the object, the decals go with it. They're not like in space somewhere. They're actually attached to it. And in fact, let me go into a plan view. If we zoom in on this wall, we can see that what the decals are is like an image that's floating like 1/8 of an inch in front of the wall, just so you know what those are when they start showing up. But they do have like their own sort of separate existence. Where was I? You can only apply decals in the project environment. We can't create a family that has a decal applied to it that will then drop into any project. So all the decal applying happens out here as sort of a finishing touch on the look and rendering of a particular model. So when we go in and create a picture frame, we'll just be creating the frame and its back that we can stick the decal onto. We won't be placing the decal there. We'll wait till we get that onto the wall. So if I go into File, New, Family, let's go to Details. Picture frame is definitely Entourage. Or let's say, actually, let's say generic model face-based. That will let us attach this thing to the wall a little more clearly than just like placing it in the, well, let's attach it to a wall instead of putting it on the floor and then moving it up the wall. So I'm going to say generic model face-based, open. So what this is showing us is, here's this face that can either be a floor or a wall. We don't really care, but whatever we do is going to be lying flat on that thing, not just floating in space. It's got to be. We won't be able to just put this in space somewhere. It's going to be attached to a surface. So go back into our plan view, and this will be what I'm going to do is a rectangle. I'll do a back first. Extrusion, rectangle. I don't know, some size. And I'm going to make that like 1/4 of an inch thick. We'll make it 1/2 inch thick, 0.5 inches thick. Okay. So that's the back that we're going to end up attaching things to. Okay, so here we have, that's the back of the picture. Around it, I want to have a sort of a donut, a rectangular donut of stuff. And remember, any solid that you make or anything you outline that has another shape inside it, the shape inside starts to define a void in it. First, I do this one, create, extrusion, rectangle, click, click. Oh, and I'm using offset. Sorry, I should have said each of these as I'm doing it. Then offset, and then I can indicate that, or I can actually say the distance I want, and I want the offset to be 1.5 inches, or whatever it happens to be. And I'm saying copy, so that'll make a copy of each of these lines, leaving the original. And Revit sees, since these two guys are attached, you probably want these two guys to be attached. And we'll make that okay. And then I put this in before that starts on the floor and then comes up. Oh, I see. I'll pick this. So this way. Okay, so it inherited the thickness of that one, or that was just like left over. Now I'm just going to change this to be like 1.5. Let's make it 1 inch. So we have that going on. And if you remember, because things, we're going to be applying the decals to this surface, even if the image is bigger, remember that the image will only show up as far as the extents of that object go. So we could have a much wider image, but it just would ignore them because they're not on front of this image. Then I'm going to load into project and it's closed. Do I want to save it? Let me give it a name. File, save as, family. I'll put this in my class 10 lecture notes. I'm going to call this picture frame. Okay, so all this together is picture frame. And I could put materials and stuff on this, but we're not going to bother. Load into project and close. Save the project. We'll actually cancel that part. And if you'll see, it's looking for a face to go on. It won't, because it's solid, because it's rectangular, because it's three-dimensional, it won't wrap around a surface the way that the decal can, but it will stick to any of these faces. And now we can attach a decal, whatever kind of image we want, to these faces. And it can be, even though this is the same copy of the same family, each of these can have a different decal. So we can have different pictures on the wall. So let's see what's involved there. Insert, decal, place a decal. I'm going to create a new one here, sorry. So I should have done insert, decal, decal types. New decal. I don't know what this will be. Something I'm going to find on my desktop. I don't know. Okay, there's that. This is a rendering of a sculpture I made for a artist. So the decal is now made. Now let's place one. Now I can move it into place. Let me get into a front-on view. And you see, because the decal was placed on that face, it goes with it. And I can move this around. If I move it down, it'll just show the space above it. But if I can just kick it right up to, I guess, an arrow key. Yeah, arrow will move it. Yeah, I can do that. We can also change the scale of this. You can see that my image is actually bigger. I would like to, bring the couple in and make this whole thing a little smaller so we can see the whole thing. So if I can find the width of this across here, well, I just use the distance command, DI for dimension, I guess. DI. Oh, that's one of my shortcuts. Annotate. Oh, I can't actually dimension in a 3D view, so I can use, I think, measure. Okay, so across there is 14 inches. So I can take this image and set its actual dimensions here. So width would be 1 foot 2 inches. And I can move that up, move it over, so it just fits. Move it up. Okay, and we see this, the rest of the image, there's a bunch of more grass and curbs and stuff sticking out. But those won't show up when we render, which is really the only time we need to be using a decal is when rendering is going on. So RR for render. The rendering, yeah. So there you go. So this way you can, in your models, you can put your family photographs on the wall if you want, whatever you want to have dressing things up. I've got really just one more I want to do, which is on page 4, it's number 2, which is to make a model of a stereo receiver. Yeah, that'll be good. And I'll email this one to you. What I would like to do is on the last page here, exercise number 2. Number 1 was making the picture frame. Create a new family for a brushed aluminum stereo system amplifier, 17 inches wide and 15 inches deep and 5.5 inches high with black 1/2 inch high legs. Load it into the project and apply the Pioneer stereo receiver that I just emailed you guys as a decal to its face. We might need to crop or otherwise reshape the image into a true rectangle in Photoshop with edit, transform, skew, or its cousins. And then the final proportions of the decal can be set in its properties in Revit, so it'll fit, centered and everything on the receiver. So let's make the image first, since let's get into Photoshop. See what we're dealing with here. So I just sent you this one, which I think will work better for our purposes. Pioneer receiver. And so we're going to do with this pretty much exactly what we did with the with that wall that we had to sort of straighten out, which was I see I've got a shadow over here. I'm just going to crop that out by the time we get around to all this. So as you can see, this is at enough of an angle. We're going to have to do some stretching here. I'm not going to crop this next. I'm going to use my escape to get rid of that. I'm going to use this to sort of define for myself what I want to end up with. So going to that corner, going to this bottom corner, going to that top corner. I'll fiddle that somehow. We'll have to fix that corner a little bit, and to there. So if I crop to these lines, I'll have all of the front. I'll have more than I need, but I'll have what I'm not going to be missing anything, but I don't have to deal with all this fluff around the edges. So I'll go to crop, drag these up. They click to the snap to those lines and enter. And now I kind of have to do skew a couple of times. I'm going to edit, transform. Oh, right now this is the background, which can't be stretched. So I have to turn it into a layer that can be just by clicking on the what you call it, lock. And I'm going to drag this corner up to here, this corner out to here, this corner down to here. It's going to look crazy for a while. And then that corner can stay where it is, I think. Okay, edit, transform, skew. And what's going to be happening as I drag one corner, we'll see that the others sort of start to come along with it sometimes. That's not too bad. Skew only works in one direction at a time. Well, those are a little whacked out. I should have picked a slightly less skewed version, but this will be good for starters. What the heck? Okay, hit enter to crop it. Well, the top part looks pretty good. Clearly, if we're looking for other images, we would want, and for this application, we'd want to get ones that were as straight on as possible, just so we don't get this sort of three-dimensional warped perspective. Okay, so there's that. I can get rid of the guides, clear guides. Oops, sorry. Enter. So that's, oh, I want to fix this over here. This over here, I think I'll use the polygonal lasso tool just to pick this, all that down through there. And I think I can just use the edit content aware fill. I think I can use that to say, fill this using what's near to it here in green, sort of get rid of this stuff. We don't want it involved or being paid attention to. Or I could have probably cloned it. Well, that's fine. So there's this. This is what we're going to stick onto the front of our box once we end up making it. I've done this better with more straight on views, but you can find your own if you ever need to do something like this. So let's say File, save a copy. I'm going to call this Pioneer Receiver Rectangular. Okay. Okay, we're done with that. And we won't save the original. Keep that behind us. Okay, now we go make a receiver, make the box, new family. And this will, you know, if you were doing a lot of this stuff, you might want to call it, it's not an electrical fixture really, specialty equipment, conceivably. Let's make it under specialty equipment. That sounds about right. That's where refrigerators and microwaves and stuff happen. Okay, so we're in a top-down view. And the first thing we want to do is make a 17 by 15 inch lump extrusion rectangle. I'm going to start it here and then move it into place. So that'll be 1'5" by, oh, I say 17 by 1'3". 1'7" by 1'3". That's good. And I'm going to have this start a 1/2 inch off the floor. So it's going to start at 0.5 inches. And it's 5.5 inches high. So we'll make it ends up to be 6 inches. So it goes from the floor, it goes from 1/2 to up to 5.5, up to 6, for a total of 5.5. To get this centered from here to here, the easiest way, and it could have been drawn over here, it doesn't matter, is just to pick the object, go to move, grab the middle of this line, which is indicated with the triangle midpoint, and just stick it over there. So it clicks on the line, and then we pick this again, move, go from the midpoint of here down to the line. If I'd made this family with the thing over there, I'd be placing it, my cursor would be here, and the thing would be, you know, 3 feet off in the other direction. Okay, so here's this is, it's the right height. Let's see about materials. I would like in the project to be able to change it, the materials. So while we're at it, since what we did last time was associate a material parameter with this, so we'll pick it. We'll pick the little drop down associate family parameter with this. We're going to create a new one, and we're going to call it receiver material. And it already knows that it's a material. I'm just going to do it by type so that all these will end up having the same, if we have 3 of them, they'll all have the same, brushed aluminum surface or whatever. Say okay. Okay. I forgot to put the feet in. So let's do create extrusion, just a little circle. And this will go from 0. This will go from 0, which is say the floor or the tabletop, up to the bottom of this. This guy's a 1/2 inch off the floor. This fills in the difference. And then I could copy that over and copy that over and copy that over, but it's really easier just to pick it and use the mirror pick axis tool. Pick it, and then just pick this guy, and it mirrors it about there. And then we can pick these 2 and mirror them about this one just to get them down there quickly. So pick, shift pick, mirror, click. So here's our thing. Okay, so I think that's ready to roll. We'll assign the material to it out in the project. We'll apply the image to it out in the project, and we're not going to worry about actual 3D buttons on it. With a better picture, that could have been done. Okay, so File, Save As, Family. I'm going right into my, where did I, oh, I have mine in a different place, but you guys should be sticking this into my, my Revit families. I'll call this entourage. We'll call this stereo. Receiver, save. Load in project and close. Not saving this out here. So here's this sitting on the front of my floor. Oh, I forgot to make its little feet be black. Oh, well. Now I want to change this thing to brushed aluminum. So when I select it, we'll go into Edit Type. And here we have that material parameter that we passed over from the family to the project. And we'll go see what that is. And I'm looking for some kind of metal. I don't want to go ahead and make, let's just do this one. Let's just do this sort of stainless steel. Close enough for now. Stainless steel, okay. 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 So now I think it will be able to see that if we like render it. Yeah, okay, so it's shiny and reflective. And if we had brushed aluminum, it would be looking like that as well. This is a little too reflective. It's starting to pick up the floorboards. But be that as it may. Now we'll go ahead and stick that decal on there. Insert decal, decal types. Here's what we have. We're going to create a new one. We're going to create one called receiver front panel. Something like that. And go get our, where did I put these? That's still in this group. Pioneer receiver rectangular. Pioneer receiver rectangular. Okay, that's a good one. Okay. Okay. And then we'll place that on here. Decal, place decal. Stick it on there, and you can see it's way too big. just however it turns out to be. But remember, we know the dimensions that we want it to be. We know that that front of the thing is 17 by 5.5. So let's pick this and make it that to start with. And right here we have these dimensions of it. I'm going to unlock the proportions. So if they have to get a little more vertical or more horizontal, they'll work. I'll say 17 inches by 5.5 inches. Okay, and there it is. And there it just fits perfectly on there. Not too shabby. That beats a lot of detailing work. Let me get into a front view, and I can really line it up just right. Select it. And I'll use the arrow keys to get it to line up. And if this were just on a shelf somewhere in one of your renderings, you would think, okay, I've got all I need to get there. I don't need to. We're not going to zoom in and see this in a rendering of an architectural space or interior design space like that. Is that slick? I mean, is that very cool? The last thing I want to do, I do want to make those little feet black. So I'll just go back, edit family. Pick these guys. Create a new parameter. Foot material. Feet material by type, okay. Okay. Load in project and close. Do I want to save the changes to the stereo receiver on disk that could be loaded into other drawings? Yes. There's one already there. Replace that. Yes. We have changed this, and we have changed some parameter values. We've added a materials parameter to that. So we'll say change those so the feet know they're supposed to attach. And now we can go and pick this, edit type, foot material. We'll pick something black. Opaque plastic. Okay, that's fine. Okay. Okay. And there it has little cute little black feet. So this looks terrible from this direction. It looks pretty good from this direction. So that looks perfect like that. So obviously you need to sort of, for any image of a three-dimensional thing, you need to really think through what kind of an image you want to use for that. Okay, last little exercise. Number 3 on the last page. Insert a TV from the Revit library. It's in the furniture category. Get a decal of a TV show from the internet and scale it to fit on the screen. So that's your assignment. We're gonna do that right now together. We'll each probably get a different image. I'm gonna get a TV image first. Let's do images of TV shows. Let's do that. There we go. Okay. What's it gonna be? I Love Lucy. Okay, that's mine. I have a screen grab program. You'll have to do whatever you do to capture yours. I think Windows Shift S is a screen grab. Yeah, Windows Shift S sets up your screen capture program. And I forget how this works for you, but then I can save this as a file. Okay, I got a picture. You could use any picture here. It doesn't matter. Just, I was thinking it'd be fun to have that. I'll go get a TV, architecture component, place component, load family, Imperial Library, furniture, television. That's the kind I want. It's an old-fashioned show. It's going to be an old-fashioned television. So there's that. Make my decal. Create a decal. You can't just stretch these. You got to give them a dimension. And I guess what I want to emphasize with this is once you've created a decal like this, if you go into edit type, no, I'm sorry, that's not where it is. It's into the decal decal types. If we pick I Love Lucy, we can give it its own little glow, its own little luminance. Let me just see. Let's just pick LCD screen and see what this. These tend to go from dim up to high. Let's just say LCD screen. I don't know. And then I got to render that again to see what it's really going to look like. Not sure that made a difference. And the thing to understand about luminance is this will not cast, this only looks like it's glowing. It doesn't actually cast light onto anything else. This won't light up the room. And I'm not sure that really made any difference here. I think these are all a little better than they were with no luminance at all, but I haven't been saving them to be able to compare them. Anyway, so that's sort of a look at dealing with images that repeat to make a material, and the ones that are here as individual uses for decals. What we're going to be covering on Thursday is adding dimensional parameters to things, just the way that we do for the regular tables and things in Revit, that we can give them a different length or different height. We'll end up doing that for our own objects. So we could have made that picture frame be larger, for instance, have a couple different instances of that on the wall. And I think the assignment is going to end up being something to do with your families from last semester. It depends if they're going to work or not, to make them so that they can be, we can give dimensional parameters so we can change their height or their other dimensions from the project through properties, type properties, and then also have parametric materials associated with them so we can change them from wood to stainless, that kind of thing. Oh, and maybe create a material while we're at it. So, some specific material that will work with one of your objects. If it has a distinguished texture already, we could photograph that and turn this actual photograph into a material, or we can just invent one completely. I'll go back and look at your objects, see what seems to make sense. It might be we end up making new ones from scratch. I don't know yet.